Yo guys, what is going on? Blossoms back and welcome back to another episode of Top Drives, another episode of Overrated or Overpowered. Now, this is the third part of one of my favorite series on the channel. Fun fact, it takes about 2 to 3 hours to make one of these parts. So for the third part, we're currently on like 6 or 9 hours of work. It's actually crazy. It doesn't seem like a lot. Just a couple of slides here and there, a couple of times here and there. It takes time, man. But anyway, if you've not seen part 1 and 2, I'll give you a quick crash course of what we've covered so far. Ready, set, go. Boom. And that should be all of it. Oh, no. More. Oh, no. There's more. Oh, no, it's gone. Yeah, I can't even load it quickly enough. But yeah, we ended off part 1 here of the Cadillac Escalade V. Yeah, it was. And then it was like other stuff. Anyway, let's get into today's part. Go all the way to the front, to the front. Oh, look at that. Okay, welcome to part 3 of Overrated or Overpowered. In today's episode, we're going to be looking at cars like the Chevrolet Corvette IMSA GTO, the Cadillac CTS Blackwing, the Buick GS400, so stay tuned. I'm going to turn on my camera and let's get into it. Okay, let's get it. Cadillac CTS Blackwing starts us off. Now, this is one of the most anticipated cars of the update, or one of my most anticipated cars on the update. I remember seeing this for the first time ever when American Overdrive released. Almost at Pacific Coast Highway. But when American Overdrive released, and this was the car where I was like, wow, this might be the game changer, okay? So let's get into it. Well, starting us off, it's actually not that much of a game changer. Putting it up against medium ground clearance epics and top drives, it's you know, like it's the best car in car park. It's the joint best on G-force and karting. That's great and all. And then again, it still loses to the Cadillac CTSV Coupe and the Subaru Impreza Cosworth. Now, as you can see, I'm only putting it up against medium ground clearance epics with performance tires. If I throw in that Grande Fiat Punto, that thing is going to be taking names. So yeah, and also within the Cadillac niche, the CT4 Blackwing loses where it needs to win, which is the City Street Small and the City Streets Medium. Those accolades still go to the CTSV, despite the handling nerf that the car received in this update. That being said, is the CT4 Blackwing a bad car? No, because if you compare it to saloons only, yes, I'm throwing in some four-wheel drive cars in there, the CT4 Blackwing is the best of the bunch for the city streets, car park, G-force, hairpin, indoor karting circuit, and twisty road. As you can see, only the Subaru Impreza is better on the slalom, and then you have the Peugeot 908, which is better on the fast circuit. So I guess an easy way to think about it is that the Cadillac CT4 Blackwing is the best saloon epic for the City Street Small and Medium with performance tires. And also, it is able to beat basically almost anything within this niche. As you can see over here, only losing out on slalom, the fast circuits, and canyon tour. Overall, I think that the Cadillac CT4 Blackwing is a very strong car, although it's not strong in the US per se. Like, it's strong, it's just not the strongest, right? I had very high expectations for this car. I thought that was going to be Blossom Choice. I think it's just going to be just shy of Blossom Choice. But that being said, it still is like the saloon medium twisty track king, right? Also, American Overdrive medium ground clearance epic and below. This is a very formidable car to own. Definitely one that I want to unpack very soon if I can. Please smile. Okay, moving on to the next one. Is a two-parter. Is the Ram 1500 Black. Oh god, I'm missing everything today. Backcountry X. So let's get into it. This is your highest rated four-wheel drive off-road car in the game for ultra rares and below, right? 63 RQ, because obviously the Dodge Powerbox, which used to be 64, has gone down in RQ by a whopping 4 RQ from 64 to 60. So does the Ram kind of talk the talk, or does it walk the walk? Well, it's pretty good. I mean, it's the best car in the dirt for hairpin, twisty road, twisty circuit, the rally crosses, Monaco, and airplane slalom. But you can see I'm being kind of nice to it because I took away the times from the Citroen Visa. The moment the Citroen Visa comes in, it's, you know, represented by these green blobs. The Citroen Visa becomes the best for the G-force, right? The twisty road, twisty circuit, slalom, rallycross, medium, and airplane slalom. That being said, the Ram will still beat the Citroen Visa on the hairpin road, as well as the rallycross small circuit and the Monaco hairpin. So although the Citroen Visa is not indefinitely, but it is definitely the better car, the Ram is still able to win a couple races against the Visa, which is not too bad. Also, shout out to the Bronco for being like the second best car in slalom in the dirt. Now, moving on to other conditions with the sand and the snow, the backcountry, not that good. It remains the best on ocean beach slalom within the four-wheel drive off-road niche and hairpin road in the sand, but everything else it's taken by the Citroen Visa. And the Ram isn't even the second best, because the second best on the snow would be the Ranger Raptor, which only loses out to the Citroen Visa, which is slightly better than with the Ford Bronco concept, which is the slalom. It's a slalom beast. That's all it is to it. One thing that we can say for certain is that the Ram 1500 backcountry is better by very slight margins, but is better than the Dodge Powerbox, so it is going to be a useful American four-wheel drive off-roader car. So for that, I'm going to say it's good. I don't think it's like amazing. I don't think it's going to be Blossom choice, but I think it's a pretty decent car to have. It's a four-wheel drive off-road American expert for the dirt, ocean beach slalom, etc. Right? But then again, it isn't the best car for the ocean beach slalom. It's just the best four-wheel drive off-roader for the ocean beach slalom. But now, next question. How about the drags? So like I said, it's a bit of a two-parter, because when I wanted to look at the drags for the Ram, it turned my attention to this car right here, the GMC Sierra 1500 AC4, a car that I didn't even think about adding on into this series, but yeah, as you can see, it's actually not that bad. For a 2 RQ cheaper, it is the best car in the dirt for the 0 to 100 and the 0 to 100 to 0. The Ram remains the best for the 1 mile, and the Test Bowl and the hill climb accolades goes to the Mercedes-Benz AMG G63. Now, this is where it gets even more impressive for the GMC, because the GMC ends up being the best car for the ice quarter mile, as well as the sand quarter mile, half mile, 1 mile, also in the snow conditions as well, beating out the RQ61 Silverado and the 63 Ram, right? It also beats everything below it, besides the AMG G63 on the 0 to 60 and the hill climb in the sand. So very impressive stuff from the GMC Sierra. Well, we're gonna go one further. We're gonna compare the GMC Sierra not only to four-wheel drive off-road cars, but also to just off-road cars in general. So now we're putting in things like the Fiat Abarth Prototipo, which is about as good as you can get for a rear-wheel drive off-road tire ultra rare. We're also putting in the Fiat Abarth 500 R3T, and as you can see, GMC Sierra still doing really well. I mean, this is the best car for 0 to 100, quarter mile, half mile, right? And then obviously in the snow, sand, and ice, it still remains one of the best options to use. So very impressive stuff coming from the GMC Sierra. So let's see if we can do one better than this. Let's put it up against not only any kind of off-roader, let's put it up against the all-surface tire cars as well. And in the all-surface tire cars, they might be really bad in anything with a turn, but when it comes to the drags, those cars have the advantage, and as you can see, they're just a bit too much for the GMC Sierra with the Cadillac Escalade IQ, which is a car that we will see in part 4, by the way, taking all the medals, right? Quarter mile, half mile, 0 to 100, etc, etc, etc. Lincoln Navicross not really winning much anymore because the Cadillac exists now, the Cadillac Escalade IQ exists now. The Land Rover 5.0 V8 is the best car for the 1 mile in the Test Bowl, and the AMG G63 being the best car for the hill climb situations in dirt and dirt wet. Overall though, very strong showing. I mean, if you want a 4-wheel drive off-roader for the drags, that's an ultra or below, the GMC Sierra should be one of the first cars that you could probably think of. Not only 4-wheel drive off-road, just an off-road tire car in general. Just remember that you can't factor in the all-surface tire cars, but as an off-roader only within that niche, the GMC Sierra, unless I'm missing something, is one of your best options to get. So pretty good stuff. I'm gonna say it's a good car, not Blossom choice, but definitely above average. Now, moving away from the off-roaders for a little bit, the Buick Blackhawk is next. Now this is a very interesting little machine over here. On the twisty stuff, it's not that good, but within its own RQ neighborhood of RQ 43, 44, it's the best car for the hairpin road, fast circuit, rolling and rolling tour. Rolling tour, canyon tour. It's so good at the fast circuit, in fact, that it actually is the best fast circuit car for everything RQ43 and below. Everything RQ46 and below, the Blackhawk is still the best car. That is to say that the Buick Blackhawk is better than any RQ46 car in the game and below. It's also better than most RQ47s, only being behind the Maserati Ghibli, the Ford FPV GT, and the Ford FPV Force 8. That's it. So with this little photo over here, you can basically discern that the Blackhawk is better than every 47 and below on the fast circuit, aside from 3 cars, which is a bit of a flex, to be honest. It's a one-trick pony, that being said, because in the drag scenario, it doesn't win anything. It still loses to the RQ40, absolutely amazing and gorgeous, best car of all time, 1969 Dodge Charger RC, and it loses to the Corvette ZR2 on the 1 mile, right? So overall, I would say that although it's not a good American dragster, it is a fantastic American overdrive dragster, because it remains the best car for the quarter mile, the half mile, 0 to 100, and 0 to 120. Now, I just want to clarify, it's the best super rare, best super rare and below American overdrive dragster, right? Only losing to the Corvette Stingray 3 on the 1 mile, 0 to 150, as well as the Tesla, which is a car which I think is pretty disappointing for an RQ49, the Stingray 3, but I've already reviewed that in, I believe, part 2. Overall, I would say that the Buick Blackhawk, I mean, the strengths, it's a one-trick pony on the fast circuit. It's also strong on the hairpin, also strong on Canyon Tour, and it's also very strong on American overdrive drags. It's a very interesting car to review. Maybe a little bit more than a one-trick pony. It's got that American overdrive drag thing on lockdown. It's also decent on the hairpin and Canyon Tour. And the reason why I want to say this now is because we'll be looking at another legit one-trick pony later on in the video, which I'm giving a way lower ranking. But anyway, Buick Blackhawk, pretty good car. Pretty decent investment. Now, moving on is a Cadillac CTSV sedan race car. This one, oh, I got a lot of time to compare for this. So, a lot of niches that this car fits in, right? First things first that I think of is slick tire, legendary saloons. We're getting more and more of them in every single update that comes around. And as you can see, the CTSV is second best, as it should be, because it's the second highest rated car. Second best in the quarter mile, 0 to 100, 0 to 120, hill climb, all shape. That being said though, it is kind of competitive against an epic, the Charger, right? The Charger Hellcat Red Eye Jailbreak, which is the best car for the half mile, the 1 mile, the 0 to 150, and the 0 to 170. So that's not the best thing to really say that you're going, you know, mano a mano with an epic, right? Especially in top drives, because it's so much cheaper to fully upgrade the Charger than it is to fully upgrade the Cadillac CTSV, for example, right? But at least it's able to beat its legendary competitors besides the Ford Falcon, which makes sense because the Falcon is 3 RQ higher. But still a little bit suspect that, you know, none of those legendaries are able to hold a candle against the legendary or absolute, I don't mean legendary literally, but I just mean the amazing Charger Hellcats, right? Moving on now to the twisty scenarios. The Cadillac doesn't seem to be that good. It still loses to the Mazda Sky Active, right? And yes, for an 85, I guess you can say that, yeah, it's all right. You know, Blossom, what do you mean? Why am I saying it's not that good? And that's because it loses to the Ford FG Falcon. On the fast circuit rolling Canyon Tour, twisty circuit hairpin road. So if I were to compare the Cadillac in between the Ford and the Mazda, if I had the Ford's time there, right, the Cadillac only ends up being the best car for the karting circuit, right? But what the Mazda can achieve that the Cadillac cannot achieve is that the Mazda actually beats the Ford on car park and G-force. The Cadillac can't beat the Ford anywhere besides karting circuit. That's about it. It still loses to the Mazda, so that's also, in my opinion, a pretty sad showing. Now, moving on to just its RQ neighborhood of RQ 85 and 84. In the drags, the Cadillac doesn't win anything. It still loses to the Pagani or the McLaren GT. And in the twisty scenarios, it loses to the RQ 84 Porsche 911 GT3. And again, we're putting in the Mazda's, you know, Sky Active just because, you know, it's 2 RQ cheaper, but it's still more competitive than what the Cadillac is able to provide, right? Because what the Cadillac doesn't have that the Mazda has, that the Mazda has some very impressive times on certain track sets. It's a specialist, you can even say, within a small RQ range for car park and G-force. The Cadillac isn't a specialist anywhere. It's more of a hybrid, you know, like, you know, it's more of a hybrid as in, like, it doesn't win anything, but it doesn't really lose anything too badly, besides, like, indoor karting, I would say. And last but not least, let's put it within the American niche. And again, it's literally getting destroyed by Hollywood, the Dodge Viper ACR. So overall, man, I'm gonna say that the Cadillac CTSV is pretty underwhelming. I think it's a bit overrated. I don't think it deserves to be 85, 84, 83. Bring it a little bit closer to, you know, the ACR or even the Mazda, for example. So strengths, Really couldn't find any, to be completely honest with you. Okay, moving on now. The Buick GS 400. This one's gonna shock you because I did not expect this car to be as good as it is. So, as you can see over here in wet drags, the Buick GS, which is, you know, RQ25 by the way, is the best car for 0 to 100, 0 to 100 to 0, and the half mile. So basically it's sharing that OP spot with the RQ24 Dodge D100, which is still the best in the quarter mile. And it's able to beat a lot of cars that are also, you know, standard tire dragsters that are higher in RQ, like the Chevrolet Nova, the Oldsmobile Cutlass, and of course the Plymouth Roadrunner 383, which used to be a rare, by the way. And moving on to even more crazy things about this thing, it just keeps on surprising. So it's actually the best car, the best uncommon for the 1 mile drag in the dirt. It's the best uncommon for the half mile drag in the gravel. It's the best uncommon for the half mile drag in dirt and wet. It's the best uncommon for the best 0 to 100 in the dirt. And the list kind of goes on. And the thing about the Buick that kind of scares me is that specific length and condition dragsters are becoming a thing, and I'm scared. Back then, you could say, "Oh yeah, it's a beast in the drags. It's not a twisty car, but it's a beast in the drags." Then, when more cars got added to the game, when more cars were added to the game, then you know you could say, "Oh yeah, this car is a beast on the shorter drags, like you know Tokyo drag, quarter mile, half mile, but it's not as good on the longer drags, like the 1 mile and the Test Bowl." Now it's basically, "Oh yeah, this car is fantastic in quarter mile only. This car is fantastic on half mile and half mile only," and that's what the Buick GS 400 is. It's the best in like half mile wet, half mile like dirt, gravel, sand, but not snow. The Buick is terrible on snow. Just want to let you know right now, right? It's very good, but you need to know where it's really good in. That being said, I'm still giving it Blossom Choice. I'm already working on Blossom Choice Uncommons. This has already made the list. I can tell you right now, this is going to be Blossom Choice. So strengths include half mile wet, 0 to 100 wet, 1 mile dirt, half mile dirt, half mile gravel, etc., etc. It's a great dragster for off-road conditions in anything uncommon and below. And that is attributed to its 82 MRA. Now, moving on is the Chevrolet Chevelle Slammer. Whee, this is a good looking car, isn't it? So let's see how good it is. In a drag scenario against American cars, not that good. It doesn't really win anything at all at 332. The Charger 3 is still the best car to use. Aerovet better on the longer scenarios. Moving on to another place, we got the fast circuit, right? So this is where we move on to another literal one-trick pony. The Chevrolet Chevelle Slammer is fantastic on the fast circuit. In fact, it is the best fast circuit car for RQ57 and below. Beats everything, you know, RQ57 and below as it draws with a lot of cars actually. With a time of 106.06, the Chevelle Slammer draws with a 332 Porsche Turbo Martini, a 233 Porsche Turbo Martini, a 233 Morgan Aero 8, a 233 Ford FPV GTP, and a 233 Dodge Charger SRT8. So it doesn't win anywhere else. Like the Circuit EV is still the car to use. I mean, Hairpin Road goes to the Viper, right? Car Park goes to the Grand Sport. But one thing that the Chevrolet Chevelle Slammer shines in is the fast circuit, and only in the fast circuit. So I would give it like slightly under average, honestly. This is a car where I feel like a lot of players might have 332'd, but 233 seems to be the way to go. Because even as an American overdrive dragster, it will lose to the RQ, I believe, 50 Stingray Racer on the longer drags, and it will lose to the drags outright to the Chevy SS, which to be fair is way higher in RQ, but they're both ultra nonetheless. So I would say at most it's a decent American overdrive dragster, not the best, not the worst. And the one thing it really has going for it is it's just like abnormally good at the fast circuit, and that's it. I would say it's a little under average. I would say that the top speed isn't very high, and the MRA could be a little bit better, and the 0 to 60 could be a little bit lower if it really wanted to make an impact on the straights. Now, moving on is the Buick Encore GX. This is the best handling super rare all-surface tire car in the update. But how good is it actually in the general sense? So compared to just basically everything I could find, it's actually pretty good. It walks the walk, right? It's the best car for twisty road dirt, twisty circuit dirt, motocross dirt, rallycross medium. It also trades some blows with the RQ49 Skoda Octavia Scout, which is a car that I'm genuinely surprised to see actually take some names in this list because it only has 79 handling when you max it out. That's less handling than the Ford Bronco Sport and the Hyundai Tucson, which both get 80. But then again, the Buick Encore, it is very strong. And of course, we have the Suzuki Ignis, an ex-Blossom Choice, making a name for itself and telling me that maybe it should be Blossom Choice again because it is fantastic. It's RQ45. It's a great bargain for the slalom and G-force, and that continues on with sand and snow. The Ignis wins where it wants to win. G-force and slalom. Kaput. The Skoda, also pretty damn good on the hairpin road, twisty, and ocean beach slalom. And the Encore is the way to go for the snow conditions because it handles the best. Also in ice and wet dirt, the Encore is pretty decent on twisty road and motocross. The Octavia is winning the rally cross and the hairpins. And of course, you have the Ignis winning the ice, the G-force, and the slalom. So basically, everything that we've seen, the meta for, you know, super air, all-surface tire cars belongs to the Buick, it belongs to the Octavia, and it belongs to the Ignis. Everything else doesn't really matter. So I would say that it's slightly above average. You know, I don't think it's a fantastic car, but it does its job as an RQ49. One thing that I didn't show is that within American all-surface tire cars, it's also able to beat a handful of RQ50 ultra rare American all-surface tire cars. The main rule of thumb is that if it handles better than the RQ50, it will perform better in tracks that matter for these cars. So yeah, it's a pretty decent car, slightly above average, but you know, at the end of the day, if you can use an off-road tire car in these scenarios, you would. Now, last but not least, the Chevrolet Corvette IMSA GTO is the car that I want to wrap up for part 3 of overrated or overpowered, the Chevrolet Corvette. So let's get into it. Within RQ80 cars alone, the Corvette makes a name for itself. The fact that it's able to trade blows as an RQ91 with an RQ97 Porsche 962C is incredible. It's the better car on half mile, on 1 mile. 0 to 150, 0 to 170, crazy stuff. You take away the Porsche, you take away the times of the Porsche 962, and the Corvette is uncontested. It becomes the best. It hits higher than the 92 Lancia. It hits higher than the 94 956. The Chevrolet is a fantastic 80s dragster. Now, moving it out of the 80s in American dragsters alone, it's fantastic if you don't count the Hennessy's. It's better than anything from American Overdrive. So it's like the best American Overdrive dragster, right? It loses to the Hennessy's and it will lose to the Demon on the really short drags like the hill climb, 0 to 100 and the quarter mile. But for the half mile, the 1 mile, the Chevrolet Corvette IMSA GTO is the way to go. Now, moving on to its RQ neighborhood, it will lose the Koenigsegg Agera. The Koenigsegg Agera is doing what Koenigsegg's do, winning on the drag. That being said though, the Chevrolet is still able to beat a handful of RQ92s, including the Pagani Huayra Tricolor, the Pagani Huayra Roadster, the Brabham BT63, the car that used to be RQ97, bullshit. It beats things within its RQ, like the Chevrolet Corvette C7 that we've seen earlier, and the Rezvani Beast as well. Actually, it trades a little bit of blow to the Rezvani, as the Rezvani has a ridiculously low 0 to 60 and wins in the quarter mile and the 0 to 100. What I can say though is that the Chevrolet is the premier 1980s legendary. All right, it's a great bargain. I'm not gonna say that it's better than the 962, but it's able to hit the similar heights as the 962 can, right, in terms of the drags. And obviously, it is also a fantastic RQ91 and below dragster, a car that you can definitely rely on. In my opinion, I think that the IMSA GTO is just shy of Blossom Choice, but it is one of the best cars from the update that you can definitely unpack, and one of the best 1980s cars in the entire game of Top Drives. But anyway, let's turn on the camera and get into the outro. Hope you enjoyed part 3 of overrated or overpowered. I do believe that the last part, part 4, well, you already heard it. I do believe that the next part, part 4, will be the last part. As always, it's 9 cars per episode, right? So we've already covered 27 cars, actually 26, because last episode we actually did the El Dorado again. So I've done 26, and then we'll move on to 35 cars in the next episode. But anyway, guys, that's gonna be it for today. Seriously, let me know in the comments below what cars you want to see on what might potentially be the final part of the PL 23, 22, whatever, the American Overdrive version of Overrated or Overpowered. But anyway, I hope you guys have a great day. Remember to stay safe, wash your hands, and blossom out. Peace.
Bro, this song just makes me so happy.
Me too.
Imagine being Asian in the 50s, looking nifty, leather jacket, looking sleek, look like Presley, look so deadly. Got a jukebox back at home, feeling jazzy, turn it on and play it slow, like the movies with the ladies.
They so fine.
Imagine being Asian in the 50s, looking nifty, leather jacket, looking sleek, look like Presley, look so deadly. Got a jukebox back at home, feeling jazzy, turn it on and play it slow, like the movies with the ladies.
They so fine.
Sit back, relax in my Bonneville Pontiac. Hold tight all night, cruise to Jacksonville
Atlantic.
Blonde hair, don't care, look like Leslie Brooks.